Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is due to arrive in Israel later on a two-day trip to the region. He will meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and will travel to other regional capitals as he works to prevent the conflict between Israel and Hamas from getting worse.
Well, during his visit, the PM will stress that Hamas's terrorism shouldn't be a catalyst for further escalation in the conflict. But tensions are rising in the Middle East, with protests erupting in cities across the region in response to a deadly blast at a hospital in Gaza on Monday. Well, let's cross now to Israel and speak to Sam Sokol, a reporter for newspaper Haaretz. Sam, what's the situation on the ground where you are?
Well, at the moment, I think we're really in uncharted territory. We've really been in a situation in recent years where we've come to expect an escalation every year or so, where Hamas will fire rockets, Israel will carry out airstrikes, but Hamas's terrorists, their gunmen, can't get through the border barrier. So there's been a feeling, a strategic concept here, that things are under control. And the fact that Hamas was able to get through and to rampage unchecked through southern Israel, killing 1,400 people, has really shaken Israel to such a degree that I think we're going to see an escalation, the likes of which we have not seen in many years. And there is even widespread talk across the political spectrum of the possibility of reoccupying the Gaza Strip. Now, what's going to happen, I couldn't say, but these images that we've seen of children brutally butchered, of party goers gunned down, of old women being kidnapped into the Gaza Strip. One of my colleagues at Haaretz, Amir T-Bone, lives on the Gaza border, had to hide in the dark on the floor with his children for 10 hours while gunmen were right outside his home. And I think that it's very tempting to see this as just another escalation, that it's possible to de-escalate it. But the feeling among Israelis is of such anger and fear that I don't think we're going to go back to what was. I really think that we're going to see a wide-ranging ground operation in Gaza. There's a real determination in Jerusalem to try to dismantle Hamas once and for all. And there seems to be a consensus from right to left that unless something is done about Hamas, there is no possibility at all of any future security or peace for Israelis or Palestinians.
Sam, I really appreciate you being on Talk today. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. A difficult time for you, your family and your countrymen and women. As we watch this, catastrophe unfold from afar, obviously, at the beginning of yesterday, there was the talk of the attack on the hospital. There were images of 500 casualties, it was said. As the day unfolded, Sam, we had the Israeli IDF, the press conference, saying, actually, this was not us. This is a rocket from perhaps a jihadi organization. There are other factions out in the Middle East. Hamas saying, no, absolutely. Later on, before I went to bed, we were talking about this morning, there was even some images after Biden had said it was the other team. Sunak seems to be on board with that. There were even images and comments that it didn't even hit this hospital. And then, in fact, it hit a car park. I think the real issue on this side of the fence, and it must be appalling for you guys there, is that you almost don't know what to believe. You don't know. There's so many news stories and so many pictures coming out, which is why we here are trying on Talk today to make it about the people who are there. You talked about how you've come to expect this, which is appalling as a Jewish person. What's your answer to the people who would say, yes, the atrocities appalling and this terrorist group needs taking out, but what is that going to cost to do that? What does an average Israeli person, a Jewish person, how do they answer that question, Sam?
Well, first of all, regarding what happened in the hospital, I think there was a rush to report before all the facts were in. And I think some really important context was missing, which is that what we've seen in multiple previous rounds is that anywhere from 20 to 25% or even higher of Palestinian rockets will fall short within the Gaza Strip. This has been fairly consistent over the last few rounds of fighting, and frequently the Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza, which is run by Hamas, will attribute Palestinian deaths to Israeli strikes when it came from Palestinian rockets, and in fact will even include Palestinian fighters among the tallies of civilians killed in Gaza. So what I would stress is it's always important to verify any claims coming from anywhere, but when it comes to things coming out from the authorities within the Gaza Strip, to go in with an increased dose of skepticism, because taking numbers given by the Palestinian Health Ministry at face value is essentially like the Americans taking numbers coming out of Al-Qaeda at face value during the beginning of the Afghanistan war.
Sam, Nick's got a question it's really important, this, because we've seen today our Prime Minister is flying to Israel. Yesterday
was Joe Biden obviously visiting. I'm just curious as to what the support of global forces means to you, specifically the UK and America. Has that made a difference to people in Israel on the ground?
I think so. At this point, and I'm only half joking when I say this, I think that if Joe Biden ran for Prime Minister of Israel, he could unseat people here have been, but in all seriousness, people here have been very, very welcoming of the support from the international community. I think there's a certain feeling among Israelis that, we often feel like we're standing alone, and the outpouring of international support in the wake of this horrific matter, there's a lot of people. And addressing what you asked regarding the cost of going to Gaza, I think, as I said, that our strategic concepts have been invalidated. I think the general feeling here is that we have previously not been willing to launch a full-on invasion to completely topple Hamas and reoccupy because the cost was too high. But after what happened and what we saw, I think there's a feeling now that the cost is too high to refrain from doing so. Sam, I think that there's going to be a very big argument.
Sam, I'm going to have to finish you there, but I just want to say from all of us here, I know the line wasn't great. I can understand the emotion in your voice, but we really appreciate you taking time, and as this situation and this horrible conflict evolves, we appreciate getting stories, the real stories from inside Israel. Thank you so much indeed, my friend.